Hello and welcome to the Walk Off, everybody. I'm Scott Belfort, joined as always by the best co-host in the biz, Adam Mack. Our schedule has been a little all over the place this week. I know that we have had a bunch of interviews where we have had special guests and bonus episodes and stuff like that, which is good news for you, the viewer. But if you are used to the hard, fast episodes where they normally are, that kind of hasn't been the case. So a Monday morning mailbag on a Tuesday afternoon is being done now on a Wednesday. The good news is that there are a bunch of interviews for you to check out. If you have yet to see the Josh Kasevich interview, that is out right now on all the public forums, so YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts from. We sat down with Canadian movie star Devon Sawa yesterday, which was pretty darn cool. If you're a 90s kid, you'll recognize what a big feat that was. And it was a pretty cool little interview. That is out right now. And then we also, of course, have Alan Roden's interview is out right now. Coming out in the next few days, we've got Adam Macko. Of course, he was the prospect that came across over from Seattle in the Teoscar trade. He is on the 40-man roster. He is starting the year in AAA, and he is the only viable left-handed pitcher that could start games for this team right now. So I think we're going to see him make his major league debut. So of course, keep an eye out for that interview. Chad Dallas, who just had Tommy John surgery and really got into the weeds on that, should be out soon. And then Riley Terada, another AAA dude who is most certainly going to make his major league debut at some point in 2025, is also out. So that is why our schedule has been not what it normally is, and I hope that you enjoy all the extra content. And on that, we will dive in to our day late mailbag. And we had so much interaction from you folks, the grounds crew, and we really do appreciate it. I will say this. I know a few of you reached out being like, man, I message you all the time and you just never get it in. I tried to make some of those complaints, put them in the mailbag. All right, I'm trying to get as many of you in here as possible. I apologize if you feel that you're taking it personal, and that we are trying to avoid your questions. That is not the case. In fact, some of it is on me, where I just will go over the questions, and if it was in the last few days, you wind up getting in recency bias, I guess. Maybe I don't dig far enough down. But again, if you are upset, apologies. We do our best. Patreon, you automatically get your comments into the mailbag. We call it the Patreon bump. That's $4 a month. It also gets you instant access to all of our interviews, bonus content in MLB Mondays, and access to our Discord. YouTube, drop your comments. Try and get as many YouTube comments. Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, the other way of getting a hold of us. On Twitter, it's at Walk Off Podcast. On Instagram, The Walk Off Podcast. On Blue Sky, at The Walk Off Podcast. There.
Did it.
I did it,
We're done.
Adam. Got it all out. All the housekeeping.
All housekeeping.
Let's dive into our mailbag. So, this is from Patreon. We're starting with Patreon here. And this is a new Patreon member. Let's Get Gaming. Welcome to the fold. We really do appreciate it. He goes, hey guys, hopefully this is where I post stuff since I'm new Patreon member. Yes, it is. You nailed it. He says, I just want to say thank you guys for the amazing content. I don't know if you remember me, Scott, but I'm Chris. We met in Dunedin last year at spring training. I'll be honest, I wanted to talk so much more with you at the time, but you were surrounded by a couple other people and didn't want to interrupt. So I will say this, Chris, interrupt away, my man. Next time we run into each other, just get your elbows up. Let's talk some baseball. He goes, my question is, what are the realistic expectations you boys had this offseason? And do you think the Jays achieved the majority of those goals? I'm pretty satisfied realistically, besides not extending Vladdy. Cheers again. Can't wait for more content. Thanks for all you do. So, nice little message there from Chris. I will say this. Number one, Chris, I do remember you from Dunedin. We were actually on the walkway in the outfield is where we met And spring training is such a great time because you can just wander the park. Win or lose, it doesn't really matter. You're just there soaking up the baseball. So, Chris, I do remember you, and we will get to your question in a second. This is as good a place as any to put it. I know right now relations between Canada and the US are not the greatest. Our governments are being real shitheads about stuff, but I will
Hmm.
say this, all right? Wood Right Brewing in Dunedin. They are going to be hosting a baseball town. I'm going to be in Dunedin from March 3rd to 9th. This trip has been booked since November, so I'm poor and didn't buy cancellation stuff. So we're in it now. However, these two countries decide to go about it. I'm there March 3rd to 9th. If you are also going to be at spring training on March 6th, Thursday, March 6th, we're holding Baseball Town. We've got our player pool panel, I should say, our player panel. So these guys are joining us. Alan Roden, Riley Terada, and Chad Dallas, all making their Baseball Town debuts at this spring training Baseball Town. And then our media roundtable is going to be Ben Nicholson Smith from At the Letters and Sportsnet. We've got Keegan Matheson from MLB.com and one more surprise guest to be announced. So if this is something that interests you, if you're going to be in Dunedin, I will post the ticket link in our comment section here. If you want to ream me out for being anti-Canadian, I don't know. I, again, it is what
What
it
are
is.
you gonna do?
I'm going to be there. I'm going to be watching some spring training baseball. It does suck that this is how everything has gone down over the last month, but here we are. So, again, the link for that is going to be in the comments. It's going to be a fun show. Really excited to have Ben Nicholson Smith on board. Keegan is always great, and to have the boys down there. So, again, if you're going to spring
What a fun
training,
time.
I'm there. Come check it out.
Awesome. I love that you're doing this. Love the turnout is gonna be awesome. And yeah, it's not your fault spring training's in Dunedin. You wanted Moose Jaw.
I pushed
So
hard for Moose Jaw. Exactly. All right.
uh,
Now, tossing this question to you, my friend. Realistically, going into the off season, where were your expectations for where this team would be? And have they more or less met your expectations?
man, whenever I hear the word expectations, I think of Tony Robbins, renowned motivational speaker, uh, who says, trade your expectations in for appreciations,
Ah,
and your whole world changes in an instant. Um, yeah, you can't be disappointed if you don't have expectations, right? So I appreciate that we got Max Scherzer.
mhm,
I appreciate that we got Santander. I appreciate that we're making an effort to extend Vladdy.
mhm.
I appreciate the addition of Hoffman in the bullpen.
I appreciate the revamping of the bullpen in general.
Yep, yep. Um, yeah,
I'll say
I would.
this. I have no faith in this front office. So it I think having no faith in your front office helps with expectations because going into the offseason, I saw
The
all the holes in this lineup and I truly did not think that they had the wherewithal to address these problems. Now, they are addressing it in ways I did not expect, which was they are spending a boatload of money. Listen, it's Rogers' money. I don't give a shit. It's already kind of at the point where 2025 is going to be fun to watch. Whether long term or not that is the case, 2025 is going to be fun. They're probably, I mean, they're kind of being projected as like an 85-ish win team right now as is, which should be good enough to compete for that third wild card spot and give us some baseball to be excited about in September. That's all I wanted, but I want more than that, and I want them to keep going. So I guess I'm kind of with Chris in that, yeah, they've more or less accomplished the things I wanted them to accomplish. I don't want them to stop. I do think that this team needs another bat if they're truly going to kind of take that step to 88 to 92 win team.
Yeah, for me, I also had the lack of confidence in this front office. The bar was low, is kind
Mhm.
of the
Yeah.
summary of like, did they meet my expectations? I guess I would say they blew my expectations out of the water
Yeah, I guess I'm
because I
kind of in the
didn't
same boat.
expect much,
No.
right? Like, they didn't haven't extended Vladdy yet. I didn't expect them to. I don't expect them to. Not until this next off season. But we don't have to beat that dead horse anymore. Um, yeah, they added everywhere that we needed adding. Did they add enough? I mean, time will tell. Could they add more? Of course. But they addressed the rotation, the bullpen, and the bats. I was
Time will.
hoping
Yeah.
that we would address one of the three. So, yeah, I mean, the team as it stands right now could compete for a wild card spot. That's that's pretty good for how I felt in November about this team. I'm happy, honestly. Like, I'm not
Grounds crew.
satisfied, but I'm happy.
Grounds crew. Would love to hear from you. We'll circle back on this on Friday, actually, and just kind of do a temperature gauge of where the fan base is at on what has been accomplished so far. What were your expectations going in to the off season? And again, this is where I think Ross Atkins has kind of like magic manned himself a little bit here, where if you just get everyone's expectations low enough, right? It's like that old SNL sketch, the lowered expectations. And hey, when your expectations are low and they start filling holes you don't think we're going to be filled, like I'm kind of with you, man. I'm kind of like, you know what? Yeah, I'm happy with where this team is at. I don't want them to stop, and I do not think that this team is good enough to win a playoff game, something that they haven't done since 2016. But are they good enough to get into a wild card? Yeah, with this team, I think they are. So,
You know the expression of like 1,000 chimps on not keyboards, on typewriters, right? Like eventually one will write Shakespeare.
mhm.
It's like nobody's written Shakespeare here, but he's put together an English sentence, and
He
that is
has.
impressive, you know?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
so
That's exactly what this team is. You look at it and you're like, this is a coherent sentence. Well done, Ross.
yeah, right. I think that
Yeah.
sums it up. This is a coherent baseball team. It's a coherent sentence.
Moving along, this is Patreon. We've got quite a few Patreon members. And of course, if you do send your questions or comments, you get on automatically. So this first bit here is bulky. This is from Metal Manic. He was commenting on our preamble from, I think it was last Friday, but he goes, parents who listen to this on their speakers at home or in the vehicle have kids who listen to it. This was a response to our question of what kids are listening to this? Probably kids who have hijacked their parents' Patreon. We are aware it is unlikely that kids are so in love with us that they are hijacking the parents' Patreon. Um, Metal Manic also said, also, you guys gave me at least a 10-second heads up this time before you got into crude comments. So he thanked us for that. Every once in a while, we will warn you. Maybe the next little few minutes are not for your kids. It's like what was it? Topless haircuts. I think that was the
Oh gosh.
conversation. Topless haircuts was where and we warned everyone. So there you go. Of course, the preamble comes with Patreon, so one added benefit or downfall, depending on how you want to look at it.
There you go.
This next one is from Nick Raymond. He says, question for the mailbag. Does this offseason really shine a light on the fact that out of all of MLB teams, Toronto needs to have a top 5 farm system? Question mark. It is always going to be a challenge to get players to sign for one reason or another in Toronto, and a strong farm system is the only way to counteract that. How important is this, and should it factor into the decisions of the next GM, president, CEO? Also, Oh, I love this. Also, as a resident of Beaumont, it's been entertaining getting so many call outs in the latest episodes. We are guilty of constantly picking on Beaumont when we're just picking a town to use
Hey,
in whatever
I
preamble
went
we're
with Moose
doing.
Jaw today,
Yes,
so
you did go with Moose Jaw. Well done.
there you go.
We talk about this quite a bit. The lack of development and the drafting from this front
Hmm.
office is one of
Hmm.
the biggest reasons this team is where they're at, which is needing to spend a bunch of money to bolster their team. I think that they've done a good job of developing major league players, but keeping them has not been necessarily one of them. And developing high end impact talent has been something that they have lacked. And yeah, I mean, this front office is showing that yes, they can get free agents to take their money. However, when there's as many question marks in an organization as there is in the current Toronto Blue Jays, it does make free agents pause and consider what the future looks like north of the border. And there's a lot of good things we just talked about what have been done over the offseason. A lot of good things have been done.
Hmm.
Jeff Hoffman on a 3-year deal, Anthony Santander on a 5-year deal. We are seeing term being thrown around. Andre Jimenez was acquired. He's another guy, right? Under contract, under control until 2028. So they have brought in somewhat, I don't want to call them a new core because I don't think that these guys are core worthy players, but they're very, very good surrounding cast. So with the question mark around where Bo and Vlad are at and what's going on with the pitching staff as we watch Chris Bassett on an expiring contract, Max Scherzer on an expiring contract, Gosman with only a year left, or sorry, 2 years with this year included. He's a free agent after 2026
Hmm.
with an opt out on Jose Barrios. Like there's a lot of question marks, right? So I think Nick's really hitting the nail on the head here that it is incredibly important to develop your talent. It is incredibly important to get your draft right. It is incredibly important to be able to target international free agents, have the scouting system to know what's there, and to hit on as many as you can.
Yeah, is it like is it essential that we are a top five farm system year in, year out? Like, I just think the premise of that I object to that like you want the boiling water to roll, right? Like you want it to be on the way up and then immediately like use those assets but by using them or having them grow to the major league level. It's just, I don't know, it's kind of impossible to say we need a top five farm system year in, year out,
I agree
right?
with that, but I think that it's very similar to, and it depends on the front office and how they view that. But I think that farm systems are very similar to major league teams, that there are windows for them to be extremely good. And what you really want is the windows to kind of parallel each other, right? So, like, when you're a really good major league team, then it might be fine for your farm to maybe be a bottom third farm system. And as you, as a major league team, become less viable in contention, then your farm system is rising with an influx of valuable, cheap talent that is going to help raise all boats. And you can hopefully just balance that back and forth. That's the dream. Incredibly difficult to do. It is something that some teams seem to do quite well. I know San Diego has been really good at being a good major league team and having a good farm sister system and then being able to use that farm system to either make trades to bolster areas of need or bring up young talent to do that. Right now,
Um,
San Diego hit a wall though, didn't they? Because
yeah, they're
they're
26 right now.
they're 26th right now and their major league team. looks like it's going to take a step back. So even the best
Yeah,
teams, even the best examples you can come up with are going to have bumps in the road.
it's funny if you look at like I'm on the Baseball America 2025 MLB Farm System rankings. This is recent as of today, February 5th, 2025. Um, the Dodgers are number 3 on this list, which is like frustrating,
Isn't that?
except that it's like if you is a pat in a passing glance, it's like, are you kidding me? Except that Baseball America is also counting Roki Sasaki as their top prospect,
Right.
which inflates the quality of their farm system. Now, I'm not saying without Sasaki, they're
No,
number
they're still a top
27.
10. They're still a
Right.
top third in baseball, but they're not a
Sure.
top three in baseball. Yeah.
So it is, but I think every team kind of has whispers of that, right? Like,
I know Toronto was currently ranked at number 24, and the
yeah.
truth is that I mean, it could be anywhere between I don't know, 19 and 25. Like that's the thing with these rankings is one guy can really make a huge difference. And if you have a dude who goes from, let's say, ranked, let's take for example Trey Savage, right? I think Baseball America has him just on the outside of the top 100. I think he ranks somewhere around 150. I know that Baseball America put out there for
Mhm.
fun because now once you start getting that far down but
Yeah.
101 to 200, right? And Yasavage was
Mhm.
in. So let's say he takes a big step forward in Vancouver this year. He
Mhm.
dominates the high A league and winds up getting a call up to double A before the end of the season.
Mhm.
He's going to be in the top 100 and that's going to bump Toronto substantially because all of a sudden instead of having 2 in the top 100, they have 3 or 4 or 5 depending on who makes these steps up, right? So is Toronto a complete waste of a farm system? No, they've got some good talent in there. Are they where they
Everybody
should
has,
be?
and our,
Or
our best names are a little bit soured right now with
yes,
Tiedemann and his injury concerns, Elvis with his conceptual issues. Let's put it that way. Um, like, so they're a bounce back year away from, yeah, putting this team up a few more spots. And then, yeah, I'm not too worried about it, to be
no.
honest, but it is. I mean, I think the spirit of the question is the importance of having a good development, player development
And
in
that I
a
agree with
there
100%.
we would certainly benefit from homegrown talent,
Yes.
um, given our difficulties with free agents. So I will say I agree with that. As far as do we need to be top 5 year in year out, I would say I hope not. The Orioles were the number 1 farm system for about a decade straight. I'm exaggerating, but like 3 or 4 years in a row, they were number 1, and now all their guys are in the show,
Yeah.
and they're number 19 farm
Right.
system. That's what you want, right? Like you
Yes.
want
Yes.
a good farm system that all pays off, and guys that can make that leap from AAA to the major league level.
And there are some interesting prospects to keep in an eye out for in 2025. Alan Rodin, Josh Kashovich, kind of the top of that list here for the Toronto Blue Jays. These are guys that might get more love as the season goes on when it comes to their prospect rankings. And who knows, the dream is they don't get more love from their prospect rankings. They just make the team or get called up early on in the season and actually contribute as major leaguers to this franchise, something that this organization could really use. All right, moving along. Scott Hames wrote in on Patreon. He says, "Hi again. I dipped out over the winter, but I'm back." So welcome back, Scott. He goes, "Can I get back into the Discord, please?" Of course, you solved that problem for. He said, "Thank you very much." Trev, by the way, Trevor, I know that you messaged me again about Discord. We're on it. We're gonna figure this out this time.
It,
And
Trevor, and for anybody else that has this issue, this is automatically processed through Patreon. You need your email
yes,
that is whatever you're using to log into Discord. You need to have that paired with your Patreon account. As long
yes.
as you have that, whoever is having this issue, because this issue does come up
Quite
once
a
a
bit.
month.
Yeah.
And there is no manual allow or kick out button that we press. So yeah, anybody else that's having that issue, that is the solution.
Long story short, that's the solution. And if you have any trouble, reach out and maybe we can walk you through it type of thing. But
Yeah, we can help you find the settings that you need to
yes.
put it in, but yeah, in the meantime, for sure do that.
Matt Finley reached out. He goes, answer to the championship ring question. For those of you who were watching last mailbag, Adam brought up a really intriguing question about when did championship rings become a thing? This all started off of a question about did Kevin Biggio get a World Series ring from his few games played with the Dodgers? More or less, it's team to team, organization to organization, but the Dodgers for sure gave Kevin Biggio a ring. So, this is from that. So Matt Finley goes, answer to the championship ring question. The first sports organization to award championship rings and the last sports organization to not give out rings was kind of the same team. In 1893, the Montreal Hockey Club gave out championship rings to their players after winning the Stanley Cup. These rings were essentially wedding bands with two crossed hockey sticks on it.
Hmm.
And in 1971, the Montreal Canadiens chose to give players a television set instead of rings to celebrate their win. The NBA was off and on at the start until 1957 when Boston won. The NFL has given out rings every year since their inception, and the MLB has awarded rings since 1920s. Thanks for the great question. Well, Matt, thanks for the great answer.
The idea of getting a championship TV is so funny to me.
It is the most uh
Oh my God.
Canadian thing too. Like, oh, the Montreal Canadiens are like, do you know how expensive TVs are these days? It's we gave our
It's
players
color.
color. Yeah, that's right.
Hmm. That's
Olivia messaged us on Patreon. This is from your preamble about paper routes. And then we were asking, do paper routes even exist anymore? Olivia with the answer. This is the great thing about you folks, the grounds crew, is that we're just a couple bumbling morons here, obviously. And we just throw out our questions into the universe and you come back with answers. So thank you. Olivia goes, my kids have a flyer paper route, LOL. So advertisement still exists. Whether there's
advertising still
papers or not, we're
exists.
not sure, but you can get your coupon still. There you go.
Absolutely. There you go. Very good.
Last Patreon question. I know it was a bulky one. Thank you to everyone who reached out. Mish reached out and said, Devin! Exclamation mark. I have a spare Kikuchi bobblehead with your name on it if you like. That was one of the things that we talked about with Devin Sawa yesterday was his huge fandom of Yusei Kikuchi. He has gone out and bought himself an Angels Kikuchi jersey, which
Really?
really shows you his level of fandom for this guy. He's
Yeah.
like, Yusei Kikuchi is my favorite baseball player in the entire world. So,
Wow.
yeah, there you go.
Well,
Bobblehead with his name on it.
set that up.
Okay, before we get into YouTube, we do have a Discord thread I wanted to share with you folks. This is a Patreon exclusive, so if you do join Patreon, you do get access to the Discord. This was a post from Scott Adams, who we have realized his name is not Scott Adams. It is a play on our names. That crazy SOB.
How
All
did he come
right.
up with that? Just sitting at home drinking a Sam Adams beer,
Yeah.
going, "Oh, I've
Great,
got it."
Scott. I got it.
Great.
Yeah.
Ah,
So Scott Adams posted 2025 Blue Jays Zips projections. So depending on how you like projections or not, I'm not a fan, but these
hate
are
them.
positive ones.
Good to
So
know.
let's let's bathe in the positivity here. Andre Jimenez is predicted to have a 4.6 F WAR with a 108 WRC plus weighted runs created plus, which is a huge increase over his 2024 season. And honestly, if Andre Jimenez picks it up that much offensively, great move by the Blue Jays in getting him. And honestly, what a boon for this team in 2025. Vlad Jr. predicted at 4.4 F war, which is so funny. That's how good Jimenez's defense is. And I know defensive war really messes with those numbers sometimes, but it does show you one of the best middle infielders in baseball, and that's why his war is so high. So Vladdy Jr., 4.4 war, a 148 weighted runs created plus. Kirky, a 3.5 war, 109 weighted runs created plus. So I'm just going to go with WRC plus here and forget about war, just so you get a rough idea here. Bichette, 115. Varsho, 103. Schneider, 109. Will Wagner, 115. Addison Barger, 107. Leo Jimenez, 105. Alan Roden, 109, and George Springer, 105. Just a reminder, weighted runs created plus, very similar to OPS plus. 100 is your base. That is your average. Anything above, that's above average. Anything below, that's below average. And the weighted runs created plus on this team is projected to be really quite good. In fact, they are predicted to be one of the top scoring teams in the American League East, which would bode well for this team. So we'll see where it goes, but not too bad. So this is where Mustard Tiger chimes in. He goes, they don't expect much from Bo's bat. Scott Adam goes, I'll still take a 115 WRC plus. Mustard Tiger goes, last season aside, it would be his worst season in the bigs. He's been consistently well above a 120 plus. Veracity steps in and goes, my money is on Bo being closer to 135 than 115. Contract year should help. Also, he is a pretty good base runner, so if he is healthy, he should have no issue generating a WRC plus with his base running alone. Kind of like how Jimenez generates a greater than 100 value with his base stealing. Jimenez isn't doing that with his bat. And then the next comment was, holy shit, some Veracity positivity. Love to see it. So Veracity is very much you in
A
Discord,
cold
Adam.
water guy.
He's
Yes.
considered the wet blanket. Yes.
Yes.
So some
What
positivity on the projection side.
what is F war as opposed to war?
So B War is baseball reference, F War is Fangraphs.
Two different websites score and measure war differently.
That's right.
And then there's defensive war. Is that D war?
Defensive war, D war. So defensive war is calculated in both F war and B war.
Hmm.
So it is a part of the equation. And it's probably the biggest knock on the validity of war is that sometimes you see things like, again, to bring, we all know where war really fails, and we can like point to those exact spots. Kyle
Hmm.
Schwarber is my favorite to point at his
Right.
2023 where he put up point 0.4 wins above replacement and he hit 47 bombs, right? And you're like, okay, there's some fuckery here a little bit. Like, I don't care how bad defensively it is. If you're hitting almost 50 bombs, there's no way you're not
Hmm.
worth a full war, right?
Hmm.
Like,
Man, these complicated stats I think too much are just hilarious to me. I
yeah.
just like if other sports did the same thing, like if we started scoring assists differently based on which website, it was like, you know, you either pass to McDavid and he goes end to end and scores, and that like assist isn't as good as him dangling through 11 guys and then bouncing it off Hyman's shin pads and into the net. Like,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
but everything's just, nah, it's an assist. Good enough.
They're like, we don't need to muddy the waters. And baseball's like, where do we put this bucket of sand? The water? Right in the water?
Yeah, indeed, indeed. But think of all the details in that sand, Scott. Think
Yes,
of all
that's
the
right.
details.
So
All
going
right.
to Twitter, Melanie reached out and said, hey guys, you have been absolutely killing it with guests the last few weeks. Thanks so much. I hope that I buttered you up enough there to get a question in mailbag. Well done, Melanie. You know how to
Great
do it.
start.
She goes, what do you guys think we can reasonably expect from Will Wagner? Is he going to get much playing time? Seems like he should be in the big leagues. What do you
Son
think,
of
Adam?
recently inducted Hall of Famer.
Yes. More
I
bloodlines,
didn't
baby.
I didn't put two and two together. That's awesome. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm good with him as a 25, 26 man on the roster. Where do you feel about
Yeah,
Will Wagner?
I think he's got the inside track on one of those last spots on the roster. Really showed a good bat last year in the time that was given to him. I mean, made his major league debut with the Blue Jays after they acquired him in the Yusei Kikuchi deal. Played second base. He's got a
20,
little bit of experience. I think he's played a few reps at third in the minor leagues, and there's starting to be some rumblings that he might get some play there. Right now, Ernie Clement's kind of penciled in as the everyday third baseman. I think it'll depend on his bat. So if his bat is continuing to produce like it was last year, and there's value in him being into that offensive value, him being in the lineup every game, I think he will. I think that there's a DH spot open. We'll see where Pete Alonso lands, and obviously the off season is far from done. I mean, we talked about this in MLB Mondays. There's still 46% of free agents out there, so there is definitely some moves that could be made. But I think if the team goes as is, as we currently see it, Will Wagner makes this team, and I think that we see him as an above average hitter.
Will Wagner last season, 26-year-old, 24 games, batting average 305, OPS plus 124.
Small sample size,
But a good
not
sample
but
is
the Adam Mack tried and
this
true
is it, man.
saying,
This
yeah,
is it. A
but
good
it's
small
true.
sample is better than a bad small sample. A
Always.
zero point 0.7 WAR. Look, if I'm a front office, I'm going, why would I give I can't think of his name now. We were just talking about him.
Pete Alonso,
No, the other slugger.
Bregman.
No, 47 home runs the
Oh,
other year.
Kyle Schwarber.
Why would we give Kyle Schwarber $15 million when Will Wagner is essentially just as valuable for 800,000, right? They they're both contributing 0.7 WAR.
That is a
Um,
great example of where war fails because 24 games of Will Wagner in September last year is not worth more than a full season and 50 home runs of Kyle Schwarber,
right.
but
Thank you. There we go. There we go. Thank you.
going to YouTube. Finally, the public gets their comments read. So this is from a nerdy Canadian commented on the Devin Sawa interview from yesterday. He goes, "This was an absolute blast of an interview. Just two Blue Jays fans going back and forth having a good time. Love this content." Well, thanks for the kind words. That's nice. Wyatt G commented on our Friday show when we were all hyped up on Max Scherzer. He goes, reminder that Justin Verlander won the Cy Young Award at age 39-40 and after coming back from Tommy John surgery. Just saying. Of course, hinting at Max Scherzer, 40-year-old, back healthy from a back surgery. Yeah, let him fly, baby. Let the old man fly. That would be amazing if Max Scherzer is anything more than he was last year. Like, honestly, last year, very small sample size, but again, the Adam Mack small sample size, way better than good small sample size, way better than a bad small sample size. He was around that 3.8 ERA. I think he had 24 innings pitched and had a pretty good whiff. We'll see.
do you know, let's check your math skills here though. Do you know how many years older a 28-year-old is than a 26-year-old?
I mean, I'm gonna carry the one and say it's two.
It's two. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Now, do you know how much older a 41-year-old is than a 39-year-old? Because it's a lot more than 2 years older. I don't know what the number is, but those years count for a lot.
I get the point. I get the point. And
So,
it is valid. No,
hey, maybe he's fighting with Bowden Francis for the AL Cy Young. Holy crap. Maybe.
like I know we're kind of joking, but like
But also, not
you
maybe
never know.
not.
Baseball is a funny little sport, and it does a really good job of making fools of everyone who thinks they already get it and know how it's going to play out. So,
Hey, if
uh,
we're talking small sample sizes, Bowden Francis had a good one in the second half of last year. Adley
sure did.
Rushman was in awe.
Sure did.
So,
Hero to Millions on our Friday show said, I'm curious as to your guys' take on this. I'm not convinced that Bo is gone. Bo was one of the players that came to Toronto to pitch the team to Sasaki. He did that on his own. It wasn't something he had to do. Bo lives in Florida, has a home in the Caribbean, but comes to Toronto in the middle of January in the midst of a polar vortex to sell Sasaki on the team. I think it's being overlooked. Vladdy didn't do that, but Bo did. Hey, I'm with Hero to Millions. If there is any shot at keeping Bo Bichette, I hope that this front office exhausts all possible scenarios because this is a 26-year-old kid who is an offensive wizard. I know last year he really had a bad season, but he led the league in hits in 2021 and 2022. He was off by about 10 in 2023 and probably would have done the same there that year, except that he wound up missing 3 weeks in the middle of the summer. And the 82 games he played last year, really tough to judge with how much injury time he had to deal with. You just got to cross your fingers and hope that he has a rebound year and is the Bo Bichette that we're used to seeing. And I really hope that this front office, if they do get that feeling in June and July, they go to him and they offer him the George Springer. Like if you can lock up Vladimir Guerrero, Bo Bichette, maybe 150 million, 6, 7 years, try and do that. All the speculation is that Bo is already gone. But he's never stated that, and neither is the front office. So we're guessing.
yeah, maybe he was just hopeful. He was like, I want to go meet a future teammate and be like,
Don't you say it.
and be like, hey, we are going to win so many championships together. We've got a great future Hall of Famer at first base with Canadian ties.
So you're
We've
saying
got
hero to millions, mix this up. Really, what happened is that Bo Bichette flew to Toronto to be recruited for the Dodgers by Roki Sasaki.
save me a spot next to Freddie Freeman in the clubhouse. Yes.
Uh,
No, I don't know. It's yeah, hopefully I mean I would still my first choice is bring Bo and Vlad back.
yeah.
Yeah. I read a rumor this morning about trading for Fernando Tatis Jr. I would rather have Bo Bichette than Fernando Tatis Jr. I think he's playing outfield now anyways, or is he back to
Mhm.
short?
No, he's in right field.
Well, I'd rather have him than George Springer, but I don't
No,
know.
it's honestly an interesting comment here from Hero to Millions, and it is a good reminder that we actually don't know. You know, like it's really easy for us as fans to constantly sit around and say Bo Bichette's gone. Bo Bichette's out the door. You can tell it on his face. You can tell it in his body language. But also judging Bo Bichette on his face is such a funny thing because he's such a stone. Like he's just
Hmm.
like so emotionless. And judging his body language during a season where the kid can't stay on the field is also a,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, you're really trying to read the tea leaves on that. And that's a difficult. Anyways, yeah, hopefully, I mean, it is a good, I guess, a good sign that he was part of the recruitment package to
yeah.
whatever extent. I don't think he was honestly like, "Hey, save me a spot in the clubhouse. I'll see you
No,
in
of course.
LA."
Yeah.
Um, But
I'm
yeah,
curious what the grounds crew thinks here. Like, what do you folks listening think? Do you still want Bo Bichette on this team? Like, because I do. And I think if there's a deal to be done, I really do think that Bo Bichette on this team long term is not a bad idea in any sense of the idea, right? Like you're really shoring up a difficult spot in shortstop offensively with a guy who can get it done. Now,
mhm,
defensively, do you want to see Bo Bichette at shortstop for the next 10 years? Probably not. But I mean, we're going to need a second baseman in 5 years. So,
indeed. Yep, there you go.
hey, final mailbag question comment. I do want to just say thank you to everyone who reached out, and my apologies to everyone who feels like they're on the outside looking in and missed out again. I know how often many of you try to get in, and my apologies that I can't get every single person. I swear, if we were to do everybody's mail, like we're talking hundreds of questions a week, and it wouldn't be a fun show anymore. It would just be like a 24-hour marathon of can these guys actually do this, kind of like one of those record breaking things. So, this last one is from BC Blizzard. He goes, there still has to be a trade, right? Or is there room on the bench for all of the Buffalo boys who aren't in the starting line? Most of them are MLB ready, so not likely to see them move to Buffalo. This is actually a really poignant question and comment. The truth is, I think, like Adam, we're just kind of waiting for the shoe to drop on this, right? Like we've talked about this a few times. There's probably not the at bats for everyone that they need to get at bats for between even AAA and the bigs.
Yeah, like there's probably creative major league bullpen solutions via trade. I don't know if any of the guys that we are talking about would bring back a starting pitcher for this team.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, it would sure be nice if you could package a guy or two up and bring in another bat, but I don't know if that's possible. And maybe it is, and we're going to find out, I think, because Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro are not done yet with this offseason, even if it is just moving a couple guys. I mean, there's all this talk about needing to fit Max Scherzer onto the 40 man, which would mean it's possible we see another DFA. We've watched
Mhm,
Hagen Danner and Brandon Eisert, both of them DFA'd off of the 40-man roster. The Rays wound up picking up Eisert and then DFAing him. And Danner is firmly entrenched in the Mariners system at this point, and I think we'll watch him make his well, not major league debut. We all remember the 7 pitches he threw a year ago before getting injured. Kind of a sad story,
mhm.
but he's healthy, he's back, and we can bet on him putting in some big league innings in the Mariners pen. Best of luck to him. So yeah, minor leaguers will be traded most likely. They've got to
Mhm.
make some room. And if not, I think that they might be able to kind of juggle these guys. But you do need to remember there's double A guys that are pushing to come up too, and you're just going to run out of spots. So something does have to give. Can they hold on to these guys till the trade deadline? Maybe. Time will tell.
Um, yeah.
That's how we're ending it. Right there.
Yeah. No, I just got this. I don't know if this is accurate or not. Scott Mitchell TSN says Peterson is the DFA for the Scherzer edition.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go.
Michael Peterson, formerly of the Marlins,
Right.
looks like he's DFA'd.
All right. There we go. All right, folks. Thanks so much for all of your comments and questions. We could not run this show without you. If you're watching Mailbag and you've yet to subscribe to the channel, obviously it goes a long way. If you do so, hit the like button before you leave. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you on Friday.
Cheers.